House will now resume its sitting. I call upon the Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to report that the bill entitled National Parks Trust Amendment Bill 2024 has passed through committee with amendments. Madam Speaker, I move that the bill entitled National Parks Trust Amendment Bill 2024 be read a third time and passed as amended.
Madam Speaker, I rise to second the motion.
Thank you. Honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that the bill entitled National Parks Trust Amendment Bill 2024 be now read a third time and passed as amended. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? The ayes have it. The motion is passed. I call upon the clerk to read the bill a third time.
This bill shall be cited as the National Parks Trust Amendment Bill 2024.
The bill has been read a third time and passed with amendments. I call upon the Premier Minister of Finance to move a motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I move that the bill shortly entitled Tourist Board Amendment Bill 2024 be read a second time. And I'll now give the objects and reasons, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to present the second reading of the Tourist Board Amendment Bill 2024. As I noted in my previous submission regarding the National Parks Trust Amendment Bill 2024, this bill is part of a broader effort to align the governance of statutory boards with modern governance principles and the recommendations arising from the Commission of Inquiry. The proposed amendments to the Tourist Board follow the same template addressing governance issues critical to the effective functioning of the board. Much like the amendments for other statutory bodies, including the National Parks Trust, BVI Ports Authority, the H. Lavity Stoutt Community College, and the BVI Health Services Authority. This series of amendments builds on our commitment to the reform of statutory boards under the Governance Reform Action Plan, particularly targeting the recommendations outlined under Phase 1, which include provisions to enhance performance, governance, and accountability across our statutory bodies. Specifically, Recommendation B26 of the COI report is being addressed through these amendments, ensuring that governance across these key bodies is rationalized, standardized, and transparent. Madam Speaker, the amendments to the Tourist Board legislation will introduce provisions to enhance board governance, improve the criteria for board membership, and formalize the framework for board operations. The bill will introduce several key provisions in line with the overarching reform goals, including board self-evaluation mechanisms, strengthening internal controls, introducing a complaints mechanism, formalizing meeting procedures and decision-making processes, gender-neutral language, and new codes of conduct and disclosure requirements for conflicts of interest. These governance amendments are vital to ensuring that the Tourist Board can deliver on its mandate effectively and with integrity, in keeping with our broader goals of strengthening oversight and operational transparency across all statutory boards. Madam Speaker, an additional amendment is being proposed today to Section 3.3 of the Tourist Board Ordinance. This amendment will address the composition of the board to better reflect the diversity and needs of the tourism sector. Under this provision, the 15-member board will be structured to ensure broad representation from key sectors, including hotels and villas, the marine industry, the hospitality sector, cruise tourism, heritage, culture and entertainment, and the transportation sector. Furthermore, there will be provisions to ensure representation from each of our sister islands, Antigua, Jasper Van Dyke, and Virgin Gorda, as well as members from the H. Laverty-Stock Community College and tourism-related trade associations. The inclusive composition ensures that the board can draw upon expertise from various facets of the tourism industry, thereby enabling more informed decision-making and a holistic approach to managing and promoting the territory's tourism assets. Additionally, the bill includes measures to ensure the board's alignment with our financial governance standards. I note that the Tourist Board's budget submission to government reflect our commitment to responsible and efficient financial management. The planning framework outlined in their budget currently defines the outcomes and key activities that will be achieved in any given year and therefore will benefit from the new provision of the financial governance policy, which will help ensure that resources are allocated effectively and that the board operates in a manner that maximizes the benefits to our economy. Madam Speaker, I believe these amendments are not only necessary, but will significantly enhance the governance structure of the Tourist Board, ensuring its operations are aligned with the highest standards of integrity, accountability, and transparency. This will enable the board to contribute even more effectively to the sustainable development of the territory's tourism sector, benefiting all Virgin Islanders. I commend this bill to this Honorable House and look forward to its expeditious passage. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, I rise to second the motion.
Thank you, honorable members. The floor is now open for debate. Any member wish to debate? Okay, if not, I'll... All right, then I'll call on the Premier to... Members, if not, I'm going to call on the Premier. Yes, I recognize the member for the 8th District, Honorable Marlon Penn.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I think tourism in the BVI and Tourist Board is too important to the economy for us to just breeze through without having and say a brief word on the amendment that is before us, Madam Speaker, to the Tourism Board Amendment Bill 2024. Madam Speaker, as the Premier mentioned, I don't intend to be too long because I know we have another 3 or 4 bills to complete that has a similar framework as the previous bill, which we spent 2 sit-ins, and we just finalized the National Parks Trust Amendment Bill, with extensive changes, Madam Speaker, changes that I think are for the better and are necessary for the effective and consistent running of the statutory private organization, or we call them body corporate entities that can sue and be sued and have their own legal identity, Madam Speaker. So it's important for us to have a level of transparency and consistency in the way that they operate and the way that they function. Madam Speaker, as I said earlier, tourism, though is not the main revenue earner for the territory, it represents a significant portion of the country's revenue. But it also is very critical to the livelihoods of many persons living in and around the Virgin Islands. So it's important for us to ensure the swift and effective management of this entity, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, specifically to the Tourist Board and its operation, and there's been a concern that I've raised, and I'm surprised that we don't have the amendments here with us today. I'm not going to speak about the specifics of the Tourist Board today, but the issue of good governance, Madam Speaker, in part of this amendment, is a key section that we amended that speaks to good governance and ensuring that the board is fit for purpose in the policy framework addresses the issue of good governance. as it relates to the board and its effective running. And we had a detailed conversation on this particular section early on today, where we made some adjustments, which is going to be sort of the template, Madam Speaker, so to speak, for this bill and the subsequent bills to come. But, Madam Speaker, there's an elephant in the room that we continue to ignore, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we have, over the last, Madam Speaker, my mic is blinking, so I believe the battery is about to go dead. So I'll need to adjust. Oh. Yeah, there we go. Madam Speaker, I was saying that there's an elephant in the room as it relates to the tourist board and the effective running of the tourist board as it relates to the good governance structure that we continue to speak about, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, when this was done about almost a year now, particularly where we had tourist board taking on the responsibilities of the Festival and Affairs Committee, I think Stats 280, that still exists. I haven't seen I know I was out for a minute member. I don't know if it came when I was out, but I haven't seen or heard of any bill that came to the House to repeal Festival and Affairs Committee bill, or any amendments that has come to the House, neither in this particular amendment that we're doing with the bill, to subsume the functionalities and functions of Festival and Affairs within the Tourist Board Ordinance, the Tourist Board Act, which we're amending here this evening, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we cannot tout good governance when it's convenient and continue to ignore and flaunt disrespect for the laws of the land, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we had a SAP just a few weeks ago, where we saw where Tourist Board got some over $900,000 in funds to satisfy a music festival. And we yet to see the full figure in terms of the money that was spent on that particular music festival. And Speaker, we heard the numbers surrounding last year's festival, which was close to $3 million. And here we have again a tourist board who has a function that is legally under the Festival and Affairs Committee's Act. Act not repealed, act not suspended like we did for the Trade Commission. But the tourist board is carrying on functionalities that is not its responsibility as a legal entity. And we're talking about good governance. And my understanding is close to several $1 million that was spent on the Festival and Affairs, the 70th anniversary that we celebrated just a few months ago, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we have to make these adjustments, Madam Speaker. I call on the Premier and this government to deal with this issue. It's going to put this country and this entity in serious liability. Madam Speaker, let's say, for instance, there's a clause in this bill speaking about indemnification of liability of board members. Right now, if anything or any lawsuit should come about regarding the last festival that was held and managed by the festival and by the tourist board, not the entity that was responsible, which is the Festival and Affairs Committee, there's serious potential liability for the Thank you. Madam Speaker, there's serious potential liability for the board members and the institution that is the Festival and Affairs Committee. It has its own legal identity. It can sue and be sued, Madam Speaker. So we've put ourselves in a situation where, and this is self-inflicted, Madam Speaker. Nobody is saying to the government, nobody is saying to the Premier, if he wants to make this move, there's a legal and structured way in which this move can be made and should be made. It's been more than 6 months now, and still we have not come to the House to repeal the Festival and Affairs Committee Act. We have not come to the House, and we're here to the House now to make changes for the appointment of the board and the structure of the board in terms of it needs to function, but we're still not making the changes for an entity that spent over $2+ million on Festival and Affairs. It still hasn't had the legal identity to address this, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this is wrong. I've been speaking about this from the inception. I've asked very specific questions about the spending of festival funds, particularly for festival. We asked some questions in the SAP about the Music Fest funding. We got a figure of over $900,000, which is in the full figure of the spending. Madam Speaker, I just want to put on the record my concern that we are here again tonight dealing with an issue with Tourist Board, and we still haven't addressed the issue of the Festival and Affairs, legal identity, which the Tourist Board has assumed without the proper legal framework to justify its assumption of that legal identity, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, I just wanted to make sure that's on the record that we have to address that issue. I don't see if it could be addressed tonight, obviously not because we haven't yet repealed the substantive legislation for Festival and Affairs Committee, which has to happen first before we make the amendments. But again, we have been at this for now months now, illegally operating a festival that doesn't have, under Tourist Board, doesn't have the legal identity to do so, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, I just wanted the public to know, on public record, my concern for this. I want to ask the Premier and his government that we need to address this situation forthwith instead of putting this entity through further liability through this process, Madam Speaker. Again, I'll wait for the committee stages. We've gone through the National Parks Trust and the specific concerns that were raised there, and I look forward to us doing the same with this bill. But it was important for me to raise my very specific concern with this bill and what's happening with this bill.
Any other member? I recognize the member for the 3rd District, Honorable Julian Fraser.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm glad that this bill shows up before us this evening. It just gave me the opportunity to voice my opinion on some of the matters pertaining to the Tourist Board. Madam Speaker, what is our tourism product? I think for too long you've been touting this sand, sea, and air thing. And it's been delivering for us, been delivering good. But we have to put something into it. When I look at the territory as a whole, Madam Speaker, my constituents are complaining, rightfully, about our roads. And the truth of the matter is that those same roads that my constituents are complaining about are the ones that we are asking people to come to the territory to drive on. At least I hear my constituents. But who are the people who drive on those roads as tourists crying out to? Trust me, Madam Speaker, they're crying out. You may not hear it in Tortola, but out there, whether it's in social media, I've seen it in social media, and back in their hometown in the newspapers, they're not bragging about how wonderful the sun, sea, and air was. They more likely will tell you how bad the roads are. And it's not just the potholes, Madam Speaker. Because the same catching that's pulling my wife out of the safari is pulling the tourists out of the safari too. Talking about the bush. The former premier at one time, he got criticized for doing it, but he had to. Putting in the hands of the tourist board capital enough to clean up the territory. And no one can dispute the fact that the territory was clean when he did that. If the premier, this current premier, is not keenly aware of what was done back then, the tourist board should petition him to get the funding to clean the territory up, cut in the bush that these tourists have to drive through. I was of the view, Madam Speaker, that since the tourists use the same roads that my constituents use, I didn't have to lose sleep over it, because at least the pride and the responsibility of the tourist board will win over. But that doesn't seem to be the case. So I have to come here and say what I feel. What is the responsibility of the tourist board? I would like to know exactly what it is. Madam Speaker, if I want to go to, let's say I want to go to South Africa, and my flight out of Puerto Rico is 9 a.m. You know how difficult it is for me to get there, Madam Speaker, from Tortola? I have to overnight in San Juan. I'll take some other airline that may or may not come late, or may not come that day at all. So the sure thing to do is to overnight in San Juan. There was a time, not so long ago, Madam Speaker, when we had 10 flights out of Beef Island a day, in and out. That's 20. That's not the case today. Whose fault is this? Yeah, I would imagine that the tourist board will be responsible and argue and fight for our airlift condition to improve. But I can't be too sure that this is happening, Madam Speaker, because if you take the ferry, you will notice that it's crowded. Passengers going to and from Tortola to catch a flight in St. Thomas. I mean, I'm not going to knock the St. Thomas accommodation, the airport in St. Thomas, thank God for it. But it's not the best. It's not the most convenient. Why isn't it that Silver Airline is flying out of Beef Island early in the morning? After all these years, why aren't they flying out of Beef Island early in the morning? You catch the other airline, there's no code sharing. So you got to walk with your luggage. Check it in San Juan. Some of us don't even use Beef Island Airport. To us, it's like going to Siberia. These are the things that, for me, it seems to me, Madam Speaker, is as if tourism is just happening in the Virgin Islands. No, not so much, not as much thanks to us as it should be. We need to do more as far as tourism is concerned, Madam Speaker. And I know that the tourist board, there's always a time when they, through the subvention, they never have enough money. Complain about that, they never get enough money. But when I look at what the other tourist boards and the other places are doing, this didn't just happen, what they're doing. Running rings around us for no reason. I would like the answer to my question, Madam Speaker. Why is Silver Airline not running out of the Virgin Islands early in the morning. Don't be fooled. If you look at St. Kitts, you look at Antigua, you look at St. Lucia, you look at St. Vincent, and you see all these flights, there's all this airlift going on. I guarantee you that their government is paying revenue sharing. Revenue sharing is commonplace. Unless that airline can take off full and come back full, the difference is made up by the government. So it's not an anomaly for us to say, well, if Silver Airline is requesting so and so, that we're not doing it because it's not the norm. That service, believe me, and believe yourself, is more important than the money that you're going to spend for it. It always has been. So, just like everything else, we sacrifice our own people. To you, the tourists can pay the extra aggravation, pay for the extra aggravation. They can endure the potholes. They can, sustain the bushes on the road and all that stuff. We can do better. We must do better. I know we have the resources to do better. So, as we go through this bill today in committee, don't be surprised if it doesn't look the same as it did when it came here. Because I don't think any of the 13 of us are happy. And if any of you who are happy, I invite you to get up and say it. And be truthful about it. We need to do better. I know we can do better. But no one is going to change anything unless we speak and say what we feel. And this is what I feel. I don't feel good, Madam Speaker, spending my money in St. Thomas when I could spend it in Tortola. And there's no getting away from it. If you go to St. Thomas, you got to spend money in St. Thomas. You get treated like garbage, you get treated like trash. I prefer my own lice to bite me. If I go Beef Island and treat me like trash, that's okay. I go St. Thomas and treat me like trash, I feel like trash because I have no business being here. Because if I complain, they're going to say, why did you come? Why didn't you leave from your own airport? So who's at fault? It's me. It's not them. So I'm going to put the pressure on the people here to accommodate me and my people in the way that they should. This is happening. This has been going on for too long. How many flights we getting a day now from Miami? They brought a little plane from Miami, American Eagle, brought a little plane from Miami. I'm happy for it, you know. For those of you who could get on it, I'm happy for you. And then they increased the number of flights from 1 to up to 4, something like that a day, and then they were up to 6. So, happy, good for you. It's American Eagle, not American Airlines, by the way. What is it, 3 seats across? 2 and 1? You see, settling for second best. When you go to St. Thomas, what do you see? 737, A300, 321, A321s. Why are we using such a small plane? Why is the size of the runway the size it is? I saw a government spend 4 years studying the runway extension. 4 years. 4 continuous years. They even went as far as, Madam Speaker, they award the contract just about to do the runway. This government comes in, they can't do a study again. You know what that tells you? They're not going to do anything. Study to study to study what? Meanwhile, I'm getting older. I'm old already. So I'll never fly out of Beef Island. Studying what? Premier, you got the study, was done for 4 long years. And you've been here for 4 years since then. Going through another 2, you've gone through 2 years already. When are you going to extend the runway at Beef Island? When? If you have a proactive tourist board, they'll be on your back, day in and day out. Premier, in order for this country to grow, we need to extend the runway at Beef Island. The member for the 6th always asks you repeatedly, what are we doing about hotel accommodation? Have any hotels approached the government with an interest in coming to the Virgin Islands? Now, something has to be done. I don't feel like my time is being spent properly. It's worth my time to come here and be doing cosmetics like we're doing now. Especially since it's been forced upon us by our colonial masters. My time is not spent wisely. None of our time is being spent wisely. You should be coming here before us with a bill or some kind of a resolution seeking $400 million or something to go extend the airport runway. You're talking about tourism, the tourist board. What's in this bill that's going to make the tourist board more functional tomorrow? What's in this bill that's going to make this tourist board more appropriate for the development of the territory and promotion of tourism? As a matter of fact, here's another observation I have. The BVI Ports Authority. The BVI Ports Authority is in the middle of a tourism product of this territory. They go to sea trade and how do you have a tourist board and still have the Ports Authority involved in tourism to the extent that they are? You're either going to have a tourist board to manage the affairs of a tourism product, or you're not going to have the board to do it. What's your fare? That product should be under the tourist board as well. Take a cue from the other Caribbean islands and see how they have been able to develop their country as far as tourism is concerned. I remember not so long ago, Madam Speaker, a cousin of mine was telling me a few years back that he went to St. Kitts on a vacation. And he told me that you walk down the streets of Bastia and there's sugarcane on the right side of the road and sugarcane on the left side of the road. Like I said, remember I said not too long ago. So stupid me gone St. Kitts now, thinking that I'm going to see a mongoose run across the road. When I saw St. Kitts, I said, what? No wonder St. Kitts people don't come to Atoll anymore. Back in the 60s, 70s, probably up to the 80s, they were coming here looking for work. You go see St. Kitts now, and that happened overnight. Antigua, same thing. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, that happened yesterday, but it happened anyway. I saw St. Vincent and Grenadine working on the airport, and I know because I was in St. Vincent in 2011, that airport wasn't built. It was being built. It wasn't open. And I saw the airport under construction. And you know what? They did what they had to do to build that airport, Madam Speaker. I kid you not. They moved everything that had to be moved in order to get that airport built, including a cemetery. Yes, they moved the cemetery to build that airport. And we're here talking about study. That's a euphemism for I'm not going to do anything. Paralysis. I'm not going to call you incompetent, Premier. So don't cock your ears for me. Try to disparage you. I'm not going to do that. I'm just trying to motivate you. This is a motivational speech for you. Instead of going out there and toll a radio, go do something constructive. Extend the airport runway. You will not be criticized constructively. All the people who would criticize you will praise you later. When Gonzalo was moving cemeteries and churches and all kind of stuff to build that airport in St. Vincent, he got criticized. Them same people flying into St. Vincent now bragging how they could fly from St. Vincent to Minnesota or wherever it is. You're not going down in history for anything if you keep this up. You have to put a mark on this territory from where you sit. But it's not going to happen if you do nothing. You got to do something. And do something dramatic. That is something dramatic. I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to get off the subject. It's too important to me. I need to see that airport runway extended. I need to see a 737 flying in here comfortably, not where they have to hold brakes in the air. Yeah, the runway too short, you got to hold brakes in the air. And don't go out there and say, Fraser, so stupid. You think you can hold brakes in the air. Fraser doesn't know what he's saying. Yes, like when you say you're pushing an open door. This is not a laughing matter, but you got to laugh because it's important. When I'm leaving to Atola, I'm not supposed. Shouldn't have to go through St. Thomas. It's 2024. In 2011, I didn't have to do it. 2007, I didn't have to do it. We went back. We've been gone back for too long. You have a mechanism. You have a vehicle, and that I give you another option. The bush that we have on the street. That's an integral. This clean streets are an integral part of our tourism product. And if you got to use a tourist board as a vehicle to get the streets clean, the bush off the streets, use it. People will criticize you. But then you took this job as premier. It's not a cosmetics job. You're going to get bruises, you're going to get bumps. So don't think that you're going home at night and you're going back home the same way you left home in the morning and think that you're going to get the job done. So, Madam Speaker, that's my level of frustration as far as the tourism product is concerned and the tourist board. And like I said, the time that we're going to spend on this bill, trying to get this particular amendment, this is not a triumph for us. It's not a victory. But we have to do it. And believe me, when we finish with this bill, you're still going to find people who are going to be upset about what we do. Because this bill came from downtown a certain way. But when it comes up here, this bill comes up here dealing with the constitution of the land. And you ain't going to take away the minister's power from them through a piece of legislation that you come here asking us to work on and us to pass. That would have happened, but not with the 6 of us over here. Sometimes I tend to believe the premier is on our side, so it's 7. And the deputy premier, despite the desertion, but you got good sense. You see where wisdom is? Stick with it. We're going to fix this bill in accordance with the ideals and objectives of the framers of our Constitution and of those who established the ministerial system of government. And I want to say loud and I want to say clear. It is not a secretariat that we have a ministerial system of government. There are ministries down there. But you got a million ministries, I'm going to stick with 5. You got 5 ministries. You got 5 ministries. And the running of this country is the responsibility of those 5 ministers. Nobody else. Them 5 ministers are responsible for running this country. And everything is supposed to channel through those 5 ministers. And anyone who brings a bill here before us with anything other than that, I'm sorry. If you want to get upset with us when we try to change it, I refer you to the Constitution of the Virgin Islands. This is not, I'm saying it, but these are not it's not my contraption or anything like that, even though some people try to blame me for certain things in the Constitution. Was that, how many years ago was that? Almost 20 years ago? And they are afraid to change it. No, this is their big chance to change it. I want to see them change it. Advocate for it. At least get up, when you get up, advocate for those changes that you thought should have been made in 2007. That you said I didn't need to. But I had my reasons. They were good reasons. I love this country. I love all the people in this country, even the bad ones. When you love people, you only see one person. That's all the people. When you see that one person, you see all the people. They're all good people. Some of them are worthless, but they're good still. And I love them. So when I tell you that I would argue with my colleagues on the opposition side, I would argue with my colleagues on the government side, that I am a firm believer that we are on our march to self-determination. And the only way we're going to get there is to demonstrate to everyone, including our critics, that we are capable of handling our own affairs. We've been running this country in this legislature for 74 long years. And one of my colleagues will get up and tell you how long we've been out of granting aid. Yeah. As recently as 1999, when I came into this house, our budget was under $100 million. Today, we're approaching $500 million. That's almost $500 million. Not a single dime, not a thin dime of it's come from the UK. But yet they want to dictate to us what goes into our legislation. And some of us blindly wants to follow it. No, it's not going to happen. At least as long as I'm sitting here, I'm going to fight you. I'm going to fight you for our right to express ourselves within the parameters and the confines of our Constitution, because we're capable of doing it. We're going to continue to feed ourselves and our children. We're going to continue to grow this country, and we're going to grow our institutions, and we're going to move this territory to is self-determination. And I expect the Premier of this country to continue to stand firm, don't back down, as far as that is concerned. As long as he continues to see that, have that vision, he has my support, 100% of it. And don't get it warped. Some people just hear what they want to hear. When I say he has my support, I'm talking about as far as self-determination is concerned. That's what I'm talking about. So don't go say that I say I support the Premier 100%. I'm telling you specifically what I support him in. That specific regard. Madam Chair, Madam Speaker, with that said, I thank you very much for the time.
I now recognize the Deputy Premier, Honorable Lana Smith.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, after spending 2 days on the National Trust bill, I had thought that we would go straight into this and finish the 5 bills that are before us in relation to statutory boards. But having heard from my colleagues, I feel that I must stand, yes, to support this bill, but also to say that I support some of the frustration, and I feel rather some of the frustration expressed by my colleague from the 3rd, and I agree with him that in terms of the role of statutory boards, which include speed, flexibility, and the ability to move faster than the bureaucracy, the public service, the traditional public service, we could use the tourist board to do a lot to enhance this country, include the cleaning up of this country, which I talk about ad nauseum. But I'm not going to stop talking about it until there is some improvement. Madam Speaker, the Tourist Board is one of the oldest statutory boards that I know. I, as a permanent secretary to the Premier, Madam Speaker, I served on the Tourist Board as a member years ago. So I understand fully what was required of the board in terms of promoting the country abroad and in terms of making the product that is the basis of our promotion as beautiful as it should be. All of us know that that product needs to be back where it should be, and I think that we are all committed to making sure that that happens. Madam Speaker, to just give you an example of how the Tourist Board was used years ago for that kind of speed and agility I'm talking about. All of us remember Brandywine Bay. Premier, I believe it's in your district. Brandywine Bay, it was dragged, it was cleaned. The then chairman of the board, I believe it was Russell Harrigan at the time, was able to corral a group of people to build a beautiful area of lattice and greenery to give the kind of privacy around that Brandywine Bay area. Sadly, because of a hurricane, it was destroyed, and I think it was even before Hurricane Irma and Maria, but sadly, it has not been restored. But that is the kind of thing that I think the Tourist Board is capable of doing, and doing very quickly. Madam Speaker, I remember all of the taglines we had, and they all meant different things. We used to say we are different, we are not for everyone. Those were the days when it was next to impossible to get to the BVI. It took you 3 days if you were coming from New York to get to the BVI. But we prided ourselves in our beauty, and so we said we were different. We are not for everyone. Only those who really loved and appreciated beauty, we used to like to say, would take the time and the effort. Then we became nature's little secrets. And for years, it was a beautiful tagline, but I think there was some conflict between that and the secrecy that we are making sure that we are avoiding in terms of our financial services. We do not want to give the impression that we are a secrecy jurisdiction. So we moved on to something like BVI Love, which I wasn't too sure what that signified. But I believe it is now just the British Virgin Islands, and that's what we are promoting. But all of these things meant something different, and something different for the British Virgin Islands in terms of its development. We all know, of course, that tourism is the second of our twin pillar economy. Madam Speaker, I'm very excited about this act, these amendments that we are bringing, that are intended to enhance and strengthen the governance mechanism. As we've said before, as I have said before, certainly, we cannot have a cut and paste exercise for this series of statutory boards amendments. They must all mean something for each one. All of them are different. We've just gone through the National Parks Trust. It took us 2 days to get a bill that was relevant to the National Parks Trust and what it stands for, and I believe that we are going to do and accomplish the same with the Tourist Board. Madam Speaker, I'm excited because of what is planned for tourism. I'm excited at the fact that Peter Island, for instance, that was out of commission since 2017, is going to be opening up its doors in November of this year, God spare our lives, barring no hurricanes, barring no other similar tragic events. So that excites me. I'm excited that Virus Creek continues to grow and develop and build new properties, yes. I'm excited at Oil Nut Bay and the fact that it continues to develop. I'm excited that Bitter End continues to expand as well. And perhaps what excites me most, Madam Speaker, is that our own people are investing millions in our tourism product. Millions in our tourism product. I am excited at the fact that the staff of the Tourist Board do such a great job. And I'm going to get into trouble for singling out people, but I'm going to single out the likes of Lynette Harrigan, who works around the clock when she has to promote our tourism product, including our events, the festival and fairs and what have you. My niece, Safrika Julian in New York, O'Neill Julian, works very hard. She was in Annapolis, Maryland, and the week before she was somewhere else. Perla George, all these people who work so hard to promote tourism. It saddens me though, and here I have to talk about my frustration, Madam Speaker, about our lack. We are not the best at implementing. When I flew back from London last week, I picked up a Financial Times. And what is in the Financial Times weekend but 6 census in Grenada. 6 census was supposed to come to the BVI before the hurricane. They were coming to Virgin Gorda, Minister Wheatley. They have now built, they have not even built on a beach, so it's not sun, sand, and sea. They've built in the mountains, and they're built around a pool. So what is stopping us from implementing? What is stopping us from doing what we need to do to get new properties going in the British Virgin Islands? We talk about Beef Island. We hope it's going to come on stream soon. We pray it's going to come on stream soon. We talk about Prospect Reef. The same thing we hope and pray. Madam Speaker, we have to deliver. And there are a lot more properties that are interested in the British Virgin Islands. Madam Speaker, I talked about the cleanup that is necessary, and if it's necessary for us to use the tourist board to do it, let us do it. I have my own views, and I will just say, as I've said elsewhere, watch this space, because we have to do it, and we have to do it together. The one thing I want to say is that we have to emphasize is that we have to clean up our country together. Yes, it is the government's responsibility, but all of us own this country, and all of us must take pride in it. Madam Speaker, the member from the 3rd talked about the Terence B. Lettsome Airport and the fact that it has been studied to death. I agree with him. I have to say, it has been studied to death. But I believe, and my understanding now, is that what we're working on is not another study to death, but more of a business plan. And my hope and my expectation is that there will be something that, Madam Speaker, will be able, that would be able, if you want to call it a request for proposal for the development of the airport, can be extended, my hope, by the end of this year. Because we know that we need to extend the airport. There is no question about it. We know that we have to extend it so that flights can come directly from at least New York, Miami, they're coming already, but certainly from New York, long haul, longer haul. You talked, sorry, Madam Speaker, the member talked about the fact that we have American Eagle. It's American Eagle, that's the name, yes, but it's a big plane. And it's a nice plane. And yes, in this slow season, I don't like to call it slow season, the summer, it's reduced to 1 flight, but we know that we are going to go up to at least 3 flights within the next, 3 flights or 4? 4 or 5 flights in the next 6 weeks. So we are cooking on gas, as they say. Madam Speaker, I would also like to, I think it's been announced here, but it may not have been because we spent so much time on the Commission of Inquiry and all these bills and so on. We don't get to talk about what is happening in government. But I am delighted. My colleague is not here. I don't believe he would mind my saying that Caribbean Airlines, formerly British West Indian Airways, is starting next month. So that's why I'm saying I'm excited about the prospects for the British Virgin Islands. I can't give you the frequency now, but it's going to be a regular flight for the Caribbean, and it could not be more timely. And I am certainly looking forward to us having that extra airline or that additional carrier coming to and from the British Virgin Islands. Madam Speaker, there is a lot for us to be excited about as a destination, as a country. As we move through this bill and we move to the committee stage, as I said, there is a lot that we are going to do in making changes because this kind of cookie cutter arrangement does not work. And my final point, which I probably have restating, but I think it's been drilled in my head by the member from the third, is that we cannot rush democracy. We will take as long as it needs to get it right in terms of this bill. And so, Madam Speaker, I look forward to our discussions, our lively discussions during the committee stage. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Any other member? I recognize the Deputy Speaker, Honorable Stacey Mather.
Good evening, Madam Speaker. Good evening to my colleagues. Good evening to the hardworking public officers sitting in the gallery. For those of you that were here in this second day, thank you. And for those of you who showed up after hours, thank you. Madam Speaker, I did not speak on the National Parks Trust amendments because I wanted to wait and see where we were going with it. And we're going to speak on positivity this evening, Madam Speaker. The deliberations for which, at any given time that I was here, I did step out here and there. There was active engagement by the members on both sides of this House. And that was wonderful. Those who've been here for a while, because I've sat in this House recently and heard a lot of conversations about experience. Experience is always good, Madam Speaker, and it shows when it's necessary, and inexperience does as well. But not all experience is always applicable. But over the last 2 sessions or 2 sittings, the members of this House have done a wonderful job, and I think we need to congratulate all of us for adding input into the National Parks Trust amendments in terms of that legislation. Madam Speaker, tourism is something that we started teaching in schools. We like to say that tourism is all of our business. In the Virgin Islands, I grew up knowing that if you saw someone visiting, you would tell them good morning, because we wanted them to feel welcomed. When I look at this document that is in front of me, it adds structure to this board and the other boards we've been talking about. And I recall earlier this year in this House saying, where are we looking at one board and one board and one board? Why don't we put it all together? And the junior Minister for Agriculture and Fisheries would say to me, it's coming. We're doing it, it's coming, so it's here. So even though some of the contents in each one of these bills is similar, I understand what the process is. And there's been a phrase thrown around about not rushing democracy, and I do appreciate it. Madam Speaker, this gives structure that I hope when I return to this House in the coming months and next year, if God permits it, that I will see annual reports coming in on time, that I will understand why this person was appointed to a board because they meet the requirements that are listed inside here. And hopefully those key performance indicators that they will be appraised against will make me as a citizen, as a legislator, feel that they are working for the money, or the stipend in some cases, which is about $300 on some boards, or $200, or in $1,500, are worth it. Madam Speaker, what I'm hoping from these pieces of legislation that we're looking at is that those buzzwords that have been thrown out of accountability, transparency, and all that stuff actually happens. Otherwise, we would have wasted our time in here creating legislation, amending legislation, working together for nothing. Madam Speaker, with your indulgence, I want to shift a minute. When I think about tourism, I think about Seth Graham, who created Hike BVI recently. And I've been on a few hikes with him with young people in our territory who've come to learn and understand what the Virgin Islands has to offer. I know the Deputy Premier has been promoting the Small Business Bureau. And Premier, I say this not as a shock to you, but as a suggestion. That $930,000 that was spoken about would have been really well spent investing in small businesses so that when our tourists come to our territory, they would have seen things and have things to do. And I'm sure that the director of the tourist board would agree with me. Because when we get here, our tourists need things to do, but more importantly, our people need things to do. Earlier in this house, I talked about jet skiing. It came up, it went one way, and it died a death. But that's an activity that Turks and Caicos and other overseas territories, places across the globe have. They have it, and it's working. So while we might be talking about structure, what is the real plan? Madam Speaker, if you drive towards the western end of this island, there's a place that we knew as the dungeon. What has happened to that? Madam Speaker, where and how are we going to improve our tourist product? Because again, Madam Speaker, we could have all we want here and expect all from the people who are appointed to the board. But in reality, what does it equate to? Madam Speaker, we have people out there with glass bottom boats doing wonders. Gumption. So when the Deputy Premier, who sounded like the Minister of Tourism when she spoke about hotels coming to our territory, I love that. And that all-inclusive experience is wonderful. But there are different classes of tourists that want other things to do. So what are we doing about that, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, do not rush democracy. There are 5 pieces of legislation here dealing with statutory bodies. But Madam Speaker, I am perturbed because we've spent the last few months aiming for deadline after deadline. We are 20 days off from a deadline that already passed. When are we going to start bringing legislation into this house for all people? When are we going to go back to business that was the business of the House of Assembly? The Deputy Premier said she'll make a statement for the minister, which she did, which was good news. We've suspended the statements for ministers. We've suspended the questions from the opposition. And this house is like a big staff meeting, Madam Speaker, where we discuss things and we file papers and we push papers. And while we seem at times to be frustrated, and I see the frustration on both sides, a byproduct of all we've done has also pushed our people away from listening in the House of Assembly. So I encourage you, Madam Speaker, because this is your house, to please put your house back where it was, so that the people of this territory can recognize us as leaders, doing the work that we were elected to do, and let's show all people that we could walk and chew gum at the same time. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Any other member wish to debate? I recognize the Minister for Health and Social Development, Honorable Vincent Whitley.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I too wish to lend my voice to this amendment, Tourist Board Amendment Bill. And like other members, I will speak about tourism and not necessarily about the bill itself. The bill is in keeping with B26. Madam Speaker, said a while ago by the Deputy Speaker, I think, that tourism is everybody's business here in the BVI. It is one of our 2 economic pillars, but tourism does employ more people, more persons here in the territory. And representing the 9th district, which is primarily tourism, I too have a keen interest in the development of tourism here in the territory. What the amendments attempt to do is to strengthen the board and how the board functions. And the board is supposed to guide tourism in this territory as I understand it. But Madam Speaker, if you really want to if you're going to take tourism seriously, it must permeate all aspects of BVI life. The member for the tour spoke about airlift. Yes, persons must experience ease in getting to the BVI. You can't be stopping 3, 4, 5, 6 times to get to the BVI. So expanding the airport is essential. Getting here, that's the first part. The second part is, what do tourists do? What are we doing for the tourists once they get to the BVI? And here's where I think sometimes we fall down as communities, as people. Okay, hotels. We see locals investing more in hotels, but most of the hotels are not ours. So we will start encouraging our people that if you're going to grow tourism, you should benefit from the growth of that sector more and more. It was said in this very house here many years ago, we cannot be hewers of stone and drawers of water only in an industry that is so critical to our survival. Education must be also taught in the schools that people appreciate. There's a book written many years ago by Pierre and Country, Why the Tourist Dollar Matters. I don't know if that book is even around anymore, but that book highlights the importance of tourism to the British Virgin Islands. I had a copy, but I'll give it to somebody. But I really went into great detail and speak about leakages of the tourism dollar. And I remind us to stay and circulate in the territory long enough, because we are not participating in the economy the way we should. Madam Speaker, the look of the territory. I think my district is the only district every single month has a cleanup campaign. And we're not doing it just for tourists, we're doing it for us. We want to make sure when our visitors come, they come to a clean territory. Now, if you're going to, if you're going to charge a tourist board with leading the charge for this territory in terms of what the tourist experiences, every year since I've been in this house and before, they come with the same story. We need more money. And I give you comparisons, they get around either 10 or 11 million. And you go next door to St. Thomas, their advertising budget is about 17 million just to advertise. Tourism has taken on a whole new light in this world. It's now a major international business, unlike before. But what has happened, it has become incredibly competitive. And persons are bringing more and more of their culture and so forth into tourism. I think every single place right now know they have to expand the airport. You're St. Vincent, Anguilla's doing theirs right now. They're going out to 7,000 feet. Nevis is doing something up there. St. Vincent finished theirs. And everywhere you go, it's for one reason. They know people can't get there in a short period of time. You're going to fall behind. Persons, I think the country I see doing an excellent job of cultural tourism is Antigua. When you go to Antigua as a tourist, you get Moko Jumbi, you get to see all the historical sites, you get to sample their foods, you get to see their cultural dances. They've totally taken their culture and woven it into tourism. Tourism should be a part of everything we do, not tourism over there and everything else out there. In the BVI, we have lots and lots, and glad the member for the at-large member brought it up. In the BVI, we have lots of interesting historical places. The locals are now beginning to discover them through the various tours that they're having, but they've been there forever. But they're not promoted properly and not properly developed. Everywhere you go in the BVI, there's some interest, whether it's cemeteries, wells, old buildings, forts from colonial era, you name it, historical spots with significant historical significance to us here that tourists will love to enjoy. Some of us don't really value our own stuff, so we think the tourists might not want it also. You heard about the dungeon. When I was going to high school, we visited the dungeon. We visited that not as a tourist site, but as a part of our colonial past. But these things today can be converted, like every other country is doing, into tourism. I travel a lot, and when I travel, I want to experience the culture of the place that I travel. And we could do the same thing here, develop all these various things that we knew about as children and we took for granted. But these persons who are coming here, and the persons who come to the BVI, particularly the BVI, they travel all over the world. They don't just come to the BVI. The BVI will always get tourism because we are beautiful, it's peaceful, and everything. It's beautiful. But we got to give the tourists more than sand, sea, and sun. Sand, sea, and sun is everywhere. And if you're going to have the tourist board live out the mandate that's given to them, Premier, they're going to need a little more money to do what they can do. And once they start to do what they have to do, developing our various sites for the tourists, then our tourism product begins to grow. Or when people here begin to develop the local products, and they too can participate in our tourism industry. I heard some guys arguing a few days ago about the BVI is the only country that promotes hurricane season. It's an argument. But they also promote closed season. We promote heavily a closed season. We tell them, we are closed, we are closed. Nobody wants to know when you're closed. Why are we promoting the closure? And then all the businesses tend to close at this very same time. Some countries don't even know a slow season. I knew a time when we didn't have a slow season here. When during the summer months, we had the Italians. That was our summer crowd. And hotels stayed open all year round. I knew exactly when it changed and why it changed to a person feels good to close down for 2 and 3 months. Your workers still have bills to pay. They pay for 12 months work permit with a particular vacation, but you've decided that you can close down for 3 months. Sometimes 3 and 4 and 5 places. I think when if you go up the North, some basin, you probably have one place open. And you put up the great sign, we are closed until so and so, promoting that slow season. Now, if you're going to take tourism in this country to where tourism needs to go, we have to invest in our tourism, invest in our spots for tourists to come, invest in the education of the persons to know that if you're going to invite tourists to your country, keep it clean, keep the crime down, promote your culture and your historical sites. Make it interesting for tourists to come and partake of your culture. There's some things that tourists will never partake in. I learned through experience. One time we tried selling at our restaurant fish and fungi as a national dish. And the tourists come in, what's your special? Oh, fish and fungi. I'll have a hamburger, please. Yeah. And then what we decided to do is to not call it fish and fungi, polenta and mahi. Oh, polenta and mahi, that sounds interesting. And then they would try it, at least one time. But fish and fungi, we could not get any tourists to buy. Polenta and mahi, which is the same thing, fish and fungi. Give it a different name. That's what we did. And the tourists, they are interested in our culture and they're interested in the practice. Some things they're not going to try because for them it's a little out of their league. But we have to invest again and not be afraid to promote our culture, not be afraid to promote our cultural sites, our culture and everything. So, Madam Speaker, I fully endorse these amendments here. It's going to strengthen the tourist board to carry out their mandate. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. I recognize the member for the 2nd District, Honorable Melvin Turnbull.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to give my contributions to the BVI Tourist Board Amendment Bill that is before this Honorable House, and I know it is another bill that is tied to the COI recommendations, how we deal with statutory bodies and boards. Madam Speaker, I am in support of doing what we must to strengthen the legislations that govern the bodies and govern us here in this territory. That is not a difficulty of mine because, Madam Speaker, we are not just building this territory for those of us that are here, we're building this territory with two things in mind, Madam Speaker: paying homage and tribute to those that came before us, as well as preparing a pathway for those that are yet to come. So, Madam Speaker, as it relates to this specific bill, I am going to start my little contribution on a phrase coined from a dance hall DJ in Jamaica from 1980. Dance a yard before you dance abroad. Which simply means you take care of home before you look out for anyone else to take care of it for you. Madam Speaker, we have been blessed in this territory to be given by God this territory called the Virgin Islands. We have been blessed by those founding fathers and those that served before us to develop what I believe would have been a selling or marketing points for our territory, which the Deputy Premier spoke about, which was nature's little secrets. And Madam Speaker, I believe it is because we continue to fail to come to a realization and acceptance of who we are, that we keep letting people change who we are. So we were nature's little secret. I grew up with nature's little secret from the time I was in school. And then we got some pressure, and the whiz kids and those outside powers and forces convinced us that we shouldn't be called nature's little secret because they tied the financial services aspect of our revenue earnings to hiding something. But Madam Speaker, if you know who you are, nobody can change you from being who you are. So we went from that to BVI Love, and I understand marketing. I do. I understand that you can't allow things to remain the same. But Madam Speaker, we are failing as a territory for standing up for who we are, because our identity, Madam Speaker, is more dependent on what people say and how they feel about us, or what they write in the newspapers or news articles, Madam Speaker, than who we as a people, who know our history, who know from whence we came and how we got here. Our voices are seemingly silent when the outside voices are more, and we are accepting. We are quick to acquiesce, we are quick to accept and trying to be this and that, and then they come with something else and we got to transform into something else. Who are you in this BVI? I believe the BVI, Madam Speaker, is the most beautiful place on this entire earth. I believe that. I said it, and now it's being repeated a lot, Madam Speaker. I think when we were coming back from Ghana, I think that was sometime earlier or late last year. I said that the BVI is one of the most beautiful places now in this present day to fly into or sail into, but when you hit the ground, you wonder what the devil is going on. And the product of the BVI, Madam Speaker, is tourism. That is the product of this territory. Appreciating the fact that financial services gives us 60 cents on the dollar in terms of our revenues, Madam Speaker. The product of the BVI has been and continues to be tourism. Madam Speaker, it just happens that the Deputy Premier spoke before me this time, so I'm going to do a little bit of what she does to me. But it's nothing intended, just to point out some of the things that she has said. Madam Speaker, dance in your yard before you go dance abroad. I heard the Deputy Premier, Madam Speaker, speak about Peter Island doing this, and Byrus Creek and Bitter End, and this hotel and that hotel and this and that, Madam Speaker. And I accept that. And I appreciate what they're all doing. But Madam Speaker, what are we doing? What is the government of the Virgin Islands doing to build this product? It's okay to celebrate what the Peter Islands and all the other investors are doing, the persons that, whether they live here or not, or invest in the business here or not. Madam Speaker, but what is the government of this territory doing for its tourism product? The member for the third spoke about the budget for Tourist Board, or the budget for this territory being under $100 million when he came in 1999. I have been here since 2015, where the budget for Tourist Board was at $1.9 million, and at one point it went up to about $13 or $14 million, and I think they're somewhere in around $10 or $11 million a year. And it has been consistently in around that ballpark figure. And Madam Speaker, I have no issues with what is being produced from what is given to the BVI Tourist Board in terms of what they're able to do. But what I find, Madam Speaker, is we are stuck, almost paralyzed, doing the same exact thing year after year and expecting a different result. And I reference, Madam Speaker, the GIS department when I talk about Tourist Board. Because when you go to college to get your degree in tourism, in marketing, in business, it is one of those creative type of educational and professional development that you take. This is for the creatives, Madam Speaker. This is where you are presented with the opportunity where the earth and the world becomes a blank canvas and you are allowed to do what you will. And why I reference GIS in this, Madam Speaker, because in the government information systems, we have some of the smartest and most creative persons that can do videography and create this and create different things, Madam Speaker, but they're stuck, they're paralyzed by this system that we have that holds them back because they have to march to a certain beat and a certain tune. And in tourism, Madam Speaker, the persons that the Deputy Premier spoke about and some others, Madam Speaker, they are limited in what they can do because we only give them so much resources. Majority of their resources, like any other government department, Madam Speaker, is to pay revenues. I mean, to pay salaries. So that creative aspect, that marketing aspect, Madam Speaker, I remember one time, I think at that time it was 2015 and then 2016, the former Premier, Dr. Orlando Smith, took me to the United Kingdom with him. And we would have met the persons who were in the tourism industry. I think Mr. McCoy, at that time you were either coming from Los Angeles or you were in Atlanta, one of the two, who's now the director. And you had persons from Atlanta, from LA, from the United Kingdom, from, I can't remember her name, but she's from I think she was in Germany. We had persons representing this territory and promoting Gabby from the British Virgin Islands all over this territory. And when I was in college, Madam Speaker, in Miami, and there was the sea trade. I was in college, Madam Speaker, that was back in 2001, not recently, for the sea trade. No, not at all. Madam Speaker, but when the Ports Authority came to the sea trade, you saw this festive celebration and wanting to sell, and the BVI Tourist Board were there marketing, Madam Speaker, the British Virgin Islands. But now we have come to a place where everybody in this territory, especially in the private sector, is doing their part to bring in revenues, to build their business, to employ our people, Madam Speaker. But we are stuck. The government is stuck, Madam Speaker, on celebrating the efforts of others when we have no skin in the game. That's a problem, Madam Speaker. That's a problem. I remember, Madam Speaker, I could never understand it. If you don't want to do something, tell me you don't want to do something. That's okay. Just tell me you don't want to do what you're supposed to do. But don't keep over and over and over and over telling me it's going to cost this amount and that amount and that amount. And Madam Speaker, I could talk plain. Madam Speaker, I remember first getting elected, and even before I was elected, when I started to pay attention to politics, from the government I was in and the government before that one coming forward, Madam Speaker, how much more are we spending on these studies for this airport development? And if you could only tell me what can happen, why it can't happen, Madam Speaker. But they got to cost this amount. And then you announce next year it coming. Another 4 or 5 million going through the door. No product. And then, Madam Speaker, you come to a place where, I think it was 2021 Minister for Communication and Works, or 2022 Minister of Communication and Works. You act like you always want to act like I am not talking about you. Fix your face, man. I'm asking a question. 2021 or 2022 when you announced American Airlines were returning. That was 21? 22. You hear every reason why a plane can't come and land before. How much money we don't spend? American can't come back. Ain't that it can't come back, man? So we didn't want that. The minister announced it. Plane come. Madam Speaker, I fly on a plane twice so far. And that is good. That is things to celebrate. Madam Speaker, I was there with the minister. We celebrated and we still celebrating, Madam Speaker, because it shows that we are willing, Madam Speaker, to go against the grain. But I got a problem. You know I have a problem. While we're doing that, Madam Speaker, I keep asking, when we were shut down after the hurricanes of 2017, when we were shut down after COVID-19, Madam Speaker, I keep asking, and I say we open for business, we welcoming people back. Where are you bringing them back to? What are we bringing people here to? Madam Speaker, you drive on the road, it's either you're going to get whiplash or you're going to have a bad back. And if you happen to screw down the window, Madam Speaker, whether it's the Captain Keep, the guinea grass, or the wild salmon, them on your on your skin, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, what are we doing? So on one aspect, we have done a good thing. But on this major aspect, Madam Speaker, something as simple, Madam Speaker, and this is where for me the rubber hits the road. Because you can't tell me, while I support the member from the third's point, that the BVI Tourist Board should play an active role in cleaning up the country. I don't push back because don't tell me that we want BVI Tourist Board to cut bush now. I ain't for it. Madam Speaker, bush cutting one under Minister of Communication and Work through Public Work Department. We keep moving and moving, and nothing happened. We had seniors, Madam Speaker, that were contracted 3 times or 4 times a year to keep certain areas in this community from District 1 to 9 clean. We ain't doing it now, Madam Speaker. The rated program start, it stop. It start, it stop. It start, it stall. You put men to work, they ain't getting paid for 3 months. You say you don't want the elected officials involved, but who the people them coming to when they can't get paid? They're coming to us. So, Madam Speaker, we keep changing and transforming who we are. And while we are going through these changes because of what everybody is saying and how we think we must conform to what they are requesting of us, Madam Speaker. You look at the neighbors, you look at the places that some of the other members have called. They have all surpassed us in our product offerings. But it's not because the BVI is in a beautiful place, Madam Speaker. It is because we have not had a plan for tourism. So we're busy doing all kind of things. And all kind of thing, but all kind of thing else, Madam Speaker. What is the plan? If you have a plan, you can operate based on your plan. You could execute based on your plan, Madam Speaker. And you could see results based on the plan. And when you need to adjust that plan, just adjust it, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, my district, 2nd District, Bruce Bay, King Garden Bay, Just Van Dyke, Madam Speaker, has been proven to be on Tatola what Virgin Water offers. Established businesses, Madam Speaker, that have provided offerings to this tourism product for years, long before I born. Madam Speaker, go down Bruce Bay now. The road down there is a mess. Well, the road then. Because if you go Bruce Bay through Anderson Hill, through Agape, through Soldier Hill, Madam Speaker, you go down in Bruce Bay, Madam Speaker, keep your window them up and keep your eyes forward. We got bathroom down there, supposed to be there. Yet another tourist season is among us, upon us, Madam Speaker. A bathroom down there building for 3.5 years now. But Madam Speaker, you can't see the bathroom. You can't see the bathroom. The bush them covering the bathroom. Wrong and wrong. 360 view, just bush. And this is supposed to be for a tourism product. Bruce Bay, Madam Speaker, where there's the whole park full of bush. Where's the historical site, Madam Speaker, with the cow dip and the mill? Madam Speaker, what are we doing? King Garden Bay. Madam Speaker, I mean, for God in heaven's sake, Madam Speaker, I got 5 of we in here from King Garden Bay in this house. 5. I know you're trying to count. Count, let me see you. No, I'm glad to see. Cousin-in-law, I'll bring him down there because the junior minister, Honorable Cal Dawson, member for the 1st district, from right there. Honorable Sharidi Castro, right there. Honorable Kairayama, right there. I and the Honorable Pen who married, he right there. Madam Speaker, King Garden Bay has proven over and over. Madam Speaker, you tell me we can't. We ain't asking to rebuild King Garden Bay, no. But you can't put into King Garden Bay. Invest, Madam Speaker, in that product that is already established, while developing Long Bay, Beef Island, Madam Speaker, to the what's the project called there? Development project. While looking at areas down in Seacoast Bay, over in Virgin Garden and other places, in the 7, leave Brandywine Bay alone, Madam Speaker, just leave that alone, leave that alone. That's another 11 million gone. Just leave it, let it be what it is. That's where the fish them, the shellfish them, the hatching thing. You leave that. Because you ain't got no surge coming in there at all. No ground seeder coming in. Just leave it. Don't spend no more money in there. Because the Lord don't show you when you spend money in there, the water wash it out. You may just do that. Put a water pack in there. That would be good. Yeah, a water pack would be nice. Yeah, take that one up. But Madam Speaker, Just Van Dyke. We brag. Number 1 in this, number 2 in this, top 10 in this, Madam Speaker. What's over there? What we presenting over on Just Van Dyke? The dock falling down. You come off the ferry port, Madam Speaker, you're looking at water when it rains. And you're asking the tourists, them, oh, welcome. Or when they spend all this money to get here, Madam Speaker, on a charter boat or whatever the case may be, it's taking them 2 and 3 hours to clear. Madam Speaker, we welcome, this is our tourism product. And Madam Speaker, all of this, Madam Speaker, is targeted somewhere. And I say it not in any disrespectful way, but Premier, this is your baby. You are the Minister of Finance. You're also the Minister of Tourism. You're also the Minister of the Environment, which deals with all these things. There needs to be a plan, Premier, that we can follow. I asked from when the former Premier were here about this plan for tourism. Tell me it was a confidential plan. He don't want to put it out there. I asked when he gone. I was there with you. I was asking what we want to do. We're going to come up with something. Right back over here now. What's the plan? Just a plan. Because while you develop Peter Island and while Byers Creek and all that, they're going to carve out their niche for themselves and they're going to streamline how they get their people to and fro to avoid some of this stuff that we see, Madam Speaker, dance in your yard. We got enough money, Madam Speaker, for over $400 million in the budget that we could clean up this place from end to end, north to south, east and west. And then we start to talk about something else, Madam Speaker. We shouldn't be talking about how the place bushy and how it's nasty looking. We got to do better, Madam Speaker. Why after all these years, Madam Speaker, we can't have something as simple, tying in everything. We just did National Parks Trust, or National Parks. What are the native trees and plants to this territory? Why when going into a King Garden, be a Bruce, be a Just Van Dyke, Long Baby File, or and Virgin Gada, you ain't seeing hibiscus and oleander and different things. Madam Speaker, why we don't replace some of this bush and some of the wild tamarind and thing, and all you have to do is maintain. Like we could create this stuff. Plant the cocoa plum along the side of the road. Planting what people eat. And when the tourists them going on the side of the road, you're picking an actual tamon rather than a wild tamon. The wild tamon there. Madam Speaker, these are simple things that can be done. I don't know how much time we're going to take to keep trying to figure it out. And Madam Speaker, for God in heaven's sake, if you have a plan, you could give the director, through the board of directors of the BVI Tourist Board, matching orders on what you want to expect. But if you don't have a plan, you're going to have Tourist Board doing this, doing that, cutting bush, trying to fill pothole, or the cheering them. Anyhow, just have a plan. Have a plan. And let's do what is legal. Let's do what is right, but we have to move with a sense of urgency. Madam Speaker, my community that I represent has been good to this territory. All I am asking is that some sort of attention be given. Not just for my district, but going into this new tourist season, Madam Speaker, you have all these things and all these new flights, but what are we producing? We have all work to do as a government. The government on that side has the power and the money. Develop a plan, start to execute it, so we could once again be proud and not talking about who else gone ahead of we while we sitting down here playing with our finger. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. At this time, members will recess until tomorrow at 10 a.m. House is now in recess.